Hi Year 11, it's Miss Radford here. I'm just going to talk you through where we are with the GCSE business course and what we still have left to do to get you ready for your final exams in the summer of Year 11. So you can see that we've made really good progress. We have covered 4 of the 6 topics of the course, which means obviously we have 2 left to go, marketing and human resources, and then we will have plenty of time left to revise all of our units and do plenty of exam paper practice and lots of practice questions to get you ready for your exam. So the remaining content that we still have to cover, as I said, is the 2 units, marketing and people. So you can see marketing is a fairly lengthy unit. And of course, people is a little bit shorter. At the end of each of those units, as usual, we will have an end of topic assessment just to check your understanding of each of those units. So what does the exam structure look like at the end? There are 2 papers at the end of the GCSE business course. One of them has a larger weighting, so 62.5%, and that's a 2-hour paper worth 100 marks. This paper contains quite a number of short case studies with a variety of calculations and questions at the end of each one. Paper 2 has a lower weighting. It's worth 37.5%. It's a slightly shorter paper, 90 minutes, and is worth 60 marks. However, this paper takes a slightly different structure where you will have a separate source booklet and then a question paper. And in the source booklet are 2 longer case studies. And then in the exam paper, you have a series of questions on each of those longer case studies. You can see here as well that we have a spread across the different assessment objectives, so ranging from knowledge and understanding through to application of that knowledge to a variety of different contexts. That's applying what you know and what you've learned to the case studies in the exam paper. And then when we move up to assessment objective 3, obviously those are the higher order skills where you're being asked to analyse data, make judgments and evaluate the information you have in front of you, and therefore draw conclusions and maybe make recommendations to the business. We've been working quite a lot in class on highlighting the different command words in the questions. And you can see there are quite a few different ones that can appear in questions. And then we've been working together to put some guidelines together on how we're going to approach each of these different commands in the questions. And so students all have access to these resources here, and they're also displayed in the classroom. So what we're trying to do is think about how we're going to respond and what length and level of response is needed to each command word in the question. So for example, this one here, they might ask you to label a diagram. If it's for 2 marks, then there's probably 2 things that you need to label on the diagram. Or they might ask you to suggest for 2 marks, in which case you're going to write down a piece of knowledge and then make 1 further point of development to earn the 2nd mark available. For assessment objective 2, it might be making a calculation, making reference to the information in the text or using the information. So these are normally 2-mark questions. So for example, here, if it's a calculation, you might write down the formula. That normally earns you 1 mark in itself, and then you complete the calculation for the 2nd mark. Or it might be extracting a piece of information from the case study and then using that to answer the question. Then we move up to assessment objective 3. One of the most common command words here for short answer questions is to explain. So the system we're going to use here is you're going to make a point, you're going to say what that leads to, and then 1 connective, which in this case will be therefore. So for example, this question here explaining 1 benefit to a business of conducting market research, you might say it helps the business to understand their customers' needs so they can make more informed decisions. That's your point. Then you're going to say what this leads to. So this helps the business to develop more points that customers want and will buy. And therefore, the consequence or impact will be that sales will increase. This helps you to make sure that you've earned both of the marks available. Then still on AO3, we might also get these command words here, analyze or why is it? So here we need chain analysis, which we talk a lot about in class. So for this, you're going to give some points of knowledge. You're going to apply that to the actual business in the case study. And then in your answer, you're going to use 5 different connectives to make sure that you're writing enough and writing in enough depth to earn all of the marks available. And again, you can see a lengthier answer here. We also have these in class, and these are also available on Google Classroom. These are all the different connectives that we might use in these answers where the system is to use 5 connectives to make sure that you've got enough depth of analysis. So make sure you refer back to this when you're practicing answering questions from past exam papers. So other command words that can appear, things like discuss, assess, evaluate, maybe recommend, to what extent. These are going to be typically 8 or 12 mark questions. So here we speak about this in class an awful lot. We need to make sure we have that counterbalance. So you have to present both sides of the argument, what we might call a balanced answer. Again, you need to make sure that there is application in your answer. So you're writing about the business in the case study rather than generally about your theory knowledge of business. And again, there needs to be 5 connectives in your answer. And again, you can see an example there. It's also worth me highlighting that in GCSE Business, there is quite a large component that depends upon your use of quantitative skills. So those might be calculations, or they might be interpreting numerical data and then using that to inform the decisions that you make, the analysis that you write, or perhaps the recommendations that you make for the business. You also have obviously a lot of formulas which you need to learn, and those are on your rainbow coloured sheets which you have printed, but those are also on Google Classroom. So revision materials that you have access to, everything you need is on Google Classroom. In fact, there's an absolute abundance of materials for you to use. So you have access to revision books. You either have your own paper copy or the pages are scanned onto Google Classroom as well. So everybody has access to them. For each unit of the course, we've written you a Blooket revision quiz so you can practice quick response of your knowledge of key terms on each of the different units of the course. You also, of course, have access to the key terms glossary for the whole course, and then broken down into the key terms that you need for each unit. And we have obviously done quite a lot of key terms tests in class. So make sure that you're learning your key terms and definitions, because sometimes those can help you to pick up really easy marks. There might be multiple choice questions or just define what this term means. A really good way to do that is to create flashcards and test yourself. You also have a number of videos linked within Google Classroom which walk through past questions for you. So how you would approach your answer and the way that you would structure that answer. You've also got a link to a revision website which is broken down into the 6 units of the course and then each subtopic within the unit. So if listening and watching is more your way to revise, then those are really good to access as well. There's a whole load of marked answers on Google Classroom, so you can see model answers and how the examiner has assessed them. And then, of course, you have all of our lesson resources on Google Classroom. So if you want to really revise a tricky topic in more detail, it's worth going back through those. At the end of the course, you will obviously also take home your exercise books that you've been using throughout the course in the classroom, actually 3 mock papers that you will have done by then, and all of the end of topic assessments and revision material that we've used in lessons. I've added in a link here to past exam paper questions, so you can print off a paper or have it on the screen and have a go at answering them. All the mark schemes are in there as well. And then, of course, you have your revision lists, which we have prepared for you, where everything is linked in. So you have one for year 10, this one here, and then a separate list for all the year 11 content. And you can see that for every topic and every subtopic, there's a video for you to watch. There's a knowledge organizer, there's a Kahoot quiz, there's a glossary of key terms, there's help with your command words. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, I've also linked in the past question walkthroughs, the revision website, your Blooket quizzes, all sorts of marked answers. Okay, so you have an absolute abundance of material to revise from. Remember, there's a list for the year 10 content and a separate list here for the year 11 revision materials. So how you actually go about revising, because it's one thing me providing all this material for you, but actually knowing what to do with it is quite different. So as I've mentioned already, make sure that you learn your key terms and definitions, perhaps create flashcards, look at the definition, cover it up, write it down, and then check to see how accurate it is, or ask somebody else to test you by sort of quick fire testing you on your definitions. Learn your formulas. Again, I have linked in the rainbow coloured formula sheet for you. These are the calculations that you must be able to do, and therefore you need to learn the formulas for them, and they will not be given to you in the exam paper. Perhaps go through each topic of the course and write some notes, and then try to condense it down, make it smaller and smaller and more concise until you've just got the key points, or maybe the bits that you're struggling to remember for each unit. You can also use the knowledge organisers here. There is one of these for each topic of the course, and those are linked in the revision list and also into the Google Classroom page as well. You can complete practice questions. Again, I've linked those in there for you. We will do lots in class, but if you want to do additional ones at home, please do that. And then if you want to, bring them in and ask your teacher to mark them and give you feedback. The more practice you can do, the better. I mentioned already that you've got video walkthroughs of past questions and answers. And then you've also got here a link to a YouTube channel, which goes over what they call tricky topics. So you have to make sure that if there's topics you're less keen on, don't ignore them. Don't pretend they don't exist and just keep revising your favourite topics. You have to push yourself and challenge yourself to really develop and understand those tricky topics. So some of those videos might be really helpful to watch as well. And then, of course, as I've mentioned, you've got all those resources to help you with your command words and the skills of application, about how you actually write about the business in the case study rather than writing generally about any business, which is a really, really important feature of these exam papers. And then lastly, how can parents and carers support our Year 11 students to get ready for these exams? So as I said, you might be able to test students on their key terms, give them the key term, ask them to define it, or the other way around, read out a definition and ask them what key term it is you're describing. Test them on their formulas, maybe help them with the knowledge organisers, maybe get this printed out in a folder and ask them some questions and check their understanding. You can ask them to how they would approach each of those command words. So are they making a point, linking it to something else and using connectives, or are they just writing down a piece of knowledge? Ask them to tell you what they're going to do when they see each of those command words. And of course, as I mentioned, students all have access to the revision guide, but I have just linked in here. So if you still need to get your hands on one, then that's the link to the Amazon site where the book is available. I think it's normally around £7. Students who receive free school meals have been provided with a copy of that booklet in school, which they can obviously take home and use freely. It's theirs to keep. The other really straightforward things is that obviously students need a quiet space and some time to revise. So make sure that you're encouraging them to spend, a couple of hours each week revising the business course. Also encourage them to attend school when we lay on additional revision sessions, ferry them back and forth and, encourage them to come in, because those sessions are really quite helpful as they get nearer to the exam to really hone in on the topics they're finding challenging and ask lots of questions and maybe get a bit more one-to-one help. And of course, give them some snacks, give them some drinks whilst they're revising, and lots of praise and encouragement to just keep things really positive to get them ready for their exams. And of course, if there's anything else that you can't access or any questions you have, you just need to get in touch with one of us as business teachers, or you can come to me directly. There's a contact form. You can get hold of me directly through the school website. Okay, thank you.